Well, this is a very interesting program for this symphony concert, pairing a symphony by Beethoven, perhaps one of his least well-known, and a symphony by Carl Nielsen, who is the most public, completely unknown. That's a shame that he's not so well known, but perhaps you will think differently after you hear this concert. Carl Nielsen was a Danish composer, writing in the German tradition. He is really a continuation of the line from Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven, Brahms, Bruckner, Nielsen. He was a very modern composer. His music still sounds very modern, but you clearly can hear his connections with the tradition. There's lots of Beethoven there. Not quotes, not the same melodies, but many of the same ideas. For instance, the Fourth Symphony of Beethoven that we play first in the program starts with a long pianissimo, very soft. It says that the symphony is in B flat major, but you don't hear a B flat major chord. You hear some mysterious sounds. A G flat, the E flat, the F, and the D flat, and the A flat, and the C, La, Di, Di, Do, Di, Do, Di, Do. So it starts. You don't hear B flat major until after 1 minute. Of course, that's on purpose. He wants to create tension. So when the B flat comes there, it's a revelation, something new, some light, something suddenly coming in. Nielsen starts with the same interval, with this third, Di-do. But in Nielsen it goes upward, on an A and a C. But this third bites itself into your consciousness. When you hear it for 4 bars alone, and you even start to think, are they mad? Are they playing the same notes for so long time? Nothing is happening. And then comes another third in the bassoons. So they play now in thirds and harmonies. They make wonderful new harmonies together with the other thirds. Then comes the horns, also in thirds, and also the flutes, always in pairs, also in thirds. So clearly, this music builds on special intervals, just as the Beethoven symphony did. It happens to be a third. And just as Beethoven, when he comes into his fast part of the first movement, he comes to the second theme, he uses the same thirds, but plays it fast. It's the same notes, but fast. So he works on the same material, but creates completely new context, new feeling, no other atmosphere. So also Nielsen, a little bit later, when you have heard this play of thirds in the beginning, it starts very calm. You're really in awe what's going to happen. It's a little bit ominous. What is going to happen? And so the first violin has not played until the first minute they come in. And they also play the third. It sounds almost like Brahms. Like the famous lullaby by Brahms. He plays on this and in this manner. But you wonder, where is he going? He creates great suspension. Suddenly there is a nuisance coming in, a little drum, a military drum, who plays a little rhythm that doesn't belong to this music apparently at all. Always the same. And so soft you can hardly hear it. But perhaps you can see it when you watch the concert on TV. You see he plays a You should notice that, because that becomes very important later in the symphony. This figure is a trivial figure. On the surface, it doesn't mean anything. It could be in any march, military march. It could be part of Ravel's Bolero or something. It's a very simple rhythm. It could also be, perhaps many of you, when you have a telephone call and you are waiting for somebody to answer, on the table you do just by, isn't he answering soon? This is fine as long as it's kept soft. But suddenly the drum gets wild and he was back. So you recognize that this is a threat. If it grows out of hand, it is a threat. Later in the symphony, you hear a wonderful melody starting in the strings. They also play in thirds, by the way, starting with the violas. Always these thirds. Builds on the same material, but different context. But this is only, it sounds like a nice hymn. And Nielsen wrote some wonderful, nice hymns, by the way. And here we have a hymn for orchestra. Suddenly this hymn turns to the minor. Instead of a dee do do do, it's a dee dee do dee do do. Minor third, it's another mood. Dee do do, and the brass is playing. The brass has not been playing for 10 minutes. They just sit there, and suddenly they start with this hymn in minor mode. But the drum comes back. He's not forgotten his mission, and he's there to destroy the whole orchestra. Dum-diddly-dum-bum-bum, dum-diddly-dum-bum-bum. It is wilder and wilder. And at the end of the first movement, after about 15 minutes, the drum has a special part in the score where the score says, from here, the snare drum plays in a faster tempo than the rest of the orchestra, as loud as possible, as if he wanted to destroy the whole orchestra. It gets very dramatic. The brass continue to playing their hymn as if they were not troubled by this disturbance. But the strings and the woodwinds also have the disturbance, very upset by this kind of psychological war. It becomes unbearable at the end. And you will notice, you who are in the concert and who watches on TV, that the drum goes far away. He changes position on the stage. He goes far away because he played so loud that he almost really hitting the eardrums of the musicians to destroy them. And at the end, he has even to leave the stage according to the score. He has to go out and plays his last dum-diddly-dum-bum from outside. You hear that he's playing as loud as he can out there, but now he's gone, so it doesn't sound loud. You just hear that he wants to play loud, but it sounds very distant. Now, what is the meaning of this? Well, I come back to Beethoven again. You know the Fifth Symphony of Beethoven. He also starts by a third, by the way. Po-po-po-po, po-po-po-po. The same third, Everybody knows this. This is a symbol of fate knocking on the door. And Beethoven's fate, he was deaf. He had also lived in Vienna where there was lots of war. Napoleon was conquering. It was not nice times. Terrible times. But Beethoven doesn't make this public to tell me, I am deaf, please feel sorry for me. Oh, how sad I am. Oh. No. His method isn't different. He converts this to music and tells how you can overcome the the problems of life. If you are deaf or if you have another problem, you can overcome it if you do all you can to achieve it. And the symphony, as you know, ends in triumph. So also here in this symphony by Nielsen, this drum is a symbol of evil. And the evil can come in many forms, as we all know. It can be war, the supreme evil. Nielsen wrote this symphony in 1920, right after the First World War. We certainly have enough of terrible memories of the war. He had a heart problem. He died 11 years later by his heart problem. It could be another sickness, cancer. In the beginning seems harmless, but grows and grows out of control and finally kills you. It can be another problem with yourself. It could be a bad habit that you indulge in. Very nice to have bad habits sometimes if you can control it. But it grows out of hand. It kills you. So this message in this music is very personal. It doesn't address somebody who has cancer, doesn't address those who have experienced war, doesn't address those who have a problem with alcohol or any other personal problem. It addresses a problem that we all have with ourselves or with our society, and we have to solve. And Nielsen shows in music how you can solve it, how the evil can be overcome. At the end, after the snare drum has gone out, you hear his last soft music playing from out there. You have a wonderful solo for clarinet in the orchestra over a very simple G major chord held by the strings. The clarinet sings a lonely song, full of beauty, but also of sadness, but also of hope. Sings alone as if he was the only survivor after atomic catastrophe or something like that. It's very moving to hear this. He has two phrases. He starts one, and when he finishes, to take a deep breath. You still hear the snare drum out there, but he is conquered. He has to go. And the clarinet has the last say, ending in a very moving way. It's a wonderful movement. After that, you have to take a deep breath. So there's only two movements in this symphony, two huge movements. This first movement is about 20 minutes. And the second movement, which is the last one then, is a complete contrast. It bursts with energy and life. A wonderful, positive movement, but also many nuances. Also, there is many similarities with Beethoven. You know, Beethoven liked, especially at the end of his life, to insert fugues in his music. The popular Ninth Symphony, for instance, the final movement, is not only a song of joy, wonderful music it is, you all love it. But did you think of it? There are two fugues there, big fugues. One very fast, and one more solemn fugue, even a double fugue with the choruses involved, wonderful music. And also in his last works, in many of the sonatas and so on, the fugues becomes the central point, because you can say so much musically with a fugue. And it's also a symbol of life. You know, the fugue has a theme that's easily recognizable. Played alone first, and then you have two voices. You hear the second voice. You hear the third voice is entering. There's a conversation going on in the music. It's like life itself. So many people come around, but they always speak the same language, have the same ideas. The first fugue comes about 10 minutes, and it starts very soft, almost like a ghost, you know, muted strings. It's very easy to recognize. This time it's not a third la di, but a fourth, and staccato, short notes. And this starts like a ghost play, but soon it abruptly gets into fortissimo, and the strong instrument play. You see, the fist is clenched here. It gets very threatening, and it grows to an enormous drama, this fugue. And at the end also of this fugue, there's only one survivor. It's interesting to the first movement. This time it's a flute. He plays it long, as if extremely hurt and excited by what has happened in his life. And then it calms down, and then you have the second fugue. It's completely different. It starts also soft but slow. And so on. And the other voices enter in. You can recognize this theme all the time. And for those who are interested, I can tell you that this melody is heard in the beginning of the second movement, but 5 times as fast. So he has the same building material and uses that to create completely different kinds of emotion and atmospheres. This fugue starts so soft, grows also a desperate end. After a wonderful passage where the 3 flutes play this fugue for themselves, the strings come in with a theme that is, you can hear blood and sweat coming out of this. Ti ti ri, ti ti ra ri ra ra do. This is a theme that we have heard earlier in the movement, but then it is pleasant and nice. And now transform into this protest. It's a moment where we all feel in the orchestra that it requires our utmost intensity and emotion. But it's only played by 3 voices, the violins and the violas. The rest of the orchestra just listen in amazement to what we are playing. And then the end of the movement is in triumph, in the blazing E flat. The E flat is the key for the Eroica key for music, the triumphant key. The Emperor Concerto by Beethoven, the 5th piano concerto, E flat, the Eroica Symphony, E flat. And also this symphony by Nielsen ends in E flat. But it had started in A minor. For those who are interested, the A minor is as far away from E flat as is possible to come in our tonal music. Right at the opposite end of the key circle that we used to use as illustrating all the keys. A minor is here, E flat is just as the opposite. There's been a long travel from A minor in the beginning with the viola and this blazing E flat triumph at the end. The symphony is a symbol of life. So all music is a symbol of life. It has a beginning, it has an end. There's lots of interesting things happening, some ups, some downs, many problems, wonderful triumphs, very emotions, very difficult, very happy. It's all there. And in 35 minutes, you can have sort of a survey of your whole life. And I hope you can identify when you listen to this music.